Eat with joy. A lot of people ask me, what is the right food to eat to be a more spiritual being? Let me give you a little background on food first. Because there's a lot of confusion as to what is the right food. So if I look at the global perspective, right, and I'm a very well-traveled person. I've lived in different parts of the world. I have observed communities, I've traveled, and I see human beings mostly eat food for survival, right? If you see communities that have come up around oceans, whether it's LA, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's Bengal, whether it's Goa, whether it's, parts of Chennai, these are all ocean places near the ocean. So what do they eat? There's a lot of culture of seafood, prawns, fish, right? This is natural because it's so easily available. For humanity to thrive, survive, these foods were easy to create. Farming was very difficult. Farming was not everybody's cup of tea, and deserts you could not farm. Nothing grew. So for survival, people ate cattle, people ate whatever came their way. If you go in the upper Himalayan regions, it is so cold, hardly anything grows most around the year. What will people do? So they turn to again goat, the most widely consumed food in the upper Himalayan region. When survival becomes the question, then you must eat whatever is available, right? If you don't survive, then forget any spiritual practice. So from a survival point of view, I don't think it matters, non-veg, veg. Then I look at cultures. Food is not just being eaten for the body. Food has become a family bonding activity. Food has deep psychological connotations. My grandma cooked this. Comfort food, food I've been eating since I was a child. Food is hardwired as a memory, as a habit. It's so difficult to remove dal chawal, lentil and rice from Indian food, because almost all Indians have grown up eating lentil and rice. You tell the Indians to eat salads and grilled tofu, they will not be able to eat it. They will feel deprived, depressed, because dal chawal holds more significance. It's more important than what is good for the body. It has a deep psychological, soothing quality. All cultures, communities have their own comfort foods that their grandmothers used to cook, that they used to eat on festivals. So food has a very high cultural significance. Turkey. Some people, or Thanksgiving is a whole ritual around eating turkey. Now tell me, most families will not understand, okay, we should not cook turkey. Oh, let's not kill a turkey. Right? Because the whole family ritual is about the mother preparing a turkey, the father goes and chooses a turkey. It's a whole process. Right? So food has geographic connotations, cultural connotations, your own habits that you have predispositions to since childhood. Very difficult to overcome all this. And suddenly tell somebody, give up your food. Just like I cannot give up my dal chawal, I really crave for it. Even though I refrain from eating grains, some days I crave this hot yellow dal with ghee, just the way my grandmother used to cook it. Just exactly like that. And the way I want my dal is very different from the way my husband wants his dal. His dal is the way his grandmother used to make it. So you get it? We're so hardwired to experience food a certain way. But if you ask me from a spiritual perspective, then food is not considered as a sacred family ritual. Then food is not considered as something that you eat for pleasure. Food is just functional energy equation. And Ayurveda and the spiritual Hinduism, right, if somebody wants to walk the spiritual path, then there are very strict rules and regulations around food. And you see that in Jainism also, Jainis, they have very strict rules around food. And so do spiritual communities. killing anything is violence. So, nobody is allowed to kill another being just to satisfy your palate and just to fill up your stomach. It's practice. The practice is to go without food for long durations, fasting, only so that you have total control over your hunger. A, so that you don't resort to any kind of anything, you just eat about anything. Because food has a huge impact on the mind and on the energy body. Really, the Manomaya Kosha is connected and the Pranmaya Kosha, it's all connected to the Bhojan Sharir or the Annamaya Kosha. So you can very well understand whatever you've eaten the last night will influence your mind, your energy, everything the next day. And sometimes for 4 days. Because non-veg does not leave the intestines, does not leave our body for 72 hours. It takes 72 hours to really digest non-vegetarian food. So it's a very slow moving, creates a lot of tamoguni. So let's understand how spirituality breaks down food. In Ayurveda, we say food is triguni, three kinds of states it creates in the body and in the mind. One is sattvic, best kind of food if you want to meditate, if you want to be a peaceful human being, if you want deep mental clarity and focus, you want to be sharp, sharpness of the mind, vegetarian, and that to sattvic food. Don't even eat onion and garlic. Don't eat anything that has tamasic or rajasic foods. So there's a lot of lists that is given in Ayurveda. What are sattvic foods? You can Google it. Try to incorporate as much of these. These are they give the mind a very different quality. Then comes Rajasic, Rajas, Vita. Rajas is movement, Rajas is action, Rajas is aggression. Anything that is very, very dynamic. Heated also, right? You see people that are driven, motivated, that's Rajas. So there's a whole list of foods that give you Rajasic qualities. But then there are certain foods that are totally to be avoided by yogis, meditators, sadhaks. And those are tamasic foods. Foods that cause heaviness, dullness. And those foods, Jennies don't eat potatoes. Or I don't know, root vegetables, some of them, I don't know the whole list, but things that go below the ground. They don't touch those kind of food items. Maybe they eat potatoes, maybe they don't eat roots. I think they don't eat ginger, they don't eat beetroot. All these things they don't eat. Because it's written, not just for spiritual. It's not like beetroot is like a bad food to have or it's evil. It's just the impact that it has on your system. It can create a certain kind of sleepiness, inertia in the body. But beetroot is otherwise very healthy. I eat a lot of beetroot. But some religions are extreme when it comes to the impact of the food on the energy body. Right? Now let's come to other descriptions of food, which is pranic and non-pranic. Means food that has high prana and food that doesn't have a lot of prana. So food that has a lot of prana, what is it? Bursting with energy. You'll be bursting with energy. You'll feel alive. You'll feel light when there is high prana food. So what is high prana food? Food that is first alive, definitely not dead things, because dead things don't have prana. So guys, sorry, your non-vegetarian food is kind of out of the equation. All you meat eaters, meat, non-veg, dead bodies don't make it to the positive pranic foods. Foods that are fresh. Imagine an apple just hanging on the tree and you pluck the apple. Better yet, eat the apple as it's hanging on the tree, while it's hanging on the tree. That highest level of prana is totally alive, right? Then vegetables that are freshly grown but also seasonal, locally available, local seeds. Not your hybrid, not your refrigerated, lying in the refrigerator, for days. No, those are all, again, they hardly carry any prana. So the minute the vegetable grows, you pluck it, you cook it. That's why we all need to have some access to farms, some access to farming, some access to growing our own vegetables, so that we can really have access to farmers markets, where fresh vegetables come daily and you are not consuming refrigerated vegetables that make it to the food markets. Yes, right? We don't want to have those. So the fruits that you eat should be seasonal. See what fruit grows in which season. And in India, we have a huge variety, because almost tropical places have a huge variety to eat from. So there's no problem in India being vegetarian. You have fruits, you have salads, you have vegetables. You can really enjoy that. But the third thing that the spiritualists really talk about is the impact of your thoughts and emotions on your food. And I think that is the biggest one. Guys, really, that is the biggest one. You could be eating a really amazing meal, but if you're pissed off, you're angry, you're upset, you're crying, you're going through emotional pain, and while you're doing that, and you're bitter, and you're cribbing about the food that is on your plate, you're saying, oh, this is not good, that is not good, I don't like the taste, don't eat it. Calm down, take a few minutes, take a few seconds, pause, breathe, and then let's say a thank you prayer. All cultures, all religions have pray before they touch their food. In India, we do bhog. We first offer the food to the deity at home, to the temple, and then everything is distributed to people. So that carries a totally different aura. Food is energized through conscious gratitude, conscious prayers, consciously, really, really, really be grateful for what is there on your plate. Whatever is there on your plate, I'm nobody to judge it right now. But at least eat it with joy. Even if you're eating a pizza, I would say, pray to the pizza, bless the pizza, thank the universe for making a pizza come to you in 30 minutes, and then eat it. The food that you will eat will have a totally different quality. How that food will behave in your body will have a totally different quality. Mirabai ate kheer, prasadam, with poison in it. That was heavily laced with poison. And she was a bhakt of Krishna. She was in love with Krishna. So she just said, Hare Krishna, and she ate the poisonous kheer, prasadam. And what happened to Mirabai? Nothing. The poison did not even go down till her belly. It had no impact on her, and everybody was shocked. This is mysticism. This is the Hindu mysticism, the Indian mysticism, spiritual mysticism. There are some things that are beyond logic. There are some things that are beyond your rational mind, that are beyond all rules. And that is alchemy of food. And alchemy of food is bless your food, pray to your food, thank the Mother Earth that has grown this food, thank the creature that might have died to make it to your plate, thank that goat that you're eating, pray to that goat, thank you, you died for me, I get to live, thank you. It will change your nature, it will change the nature of the food. Try it. And I'll also give you a beautiful story of Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Bengali mystic and spiritual teacher, guru, whatever you want to call him. He was primarily vegetarian. But the tradition in Bengal is that they offer, and so is the tradition in many Hindu temples, of certain kind of deities, Kali, Bhairav, Ugra Devi Devtas. We offer non-veg. So in Bengal, the culture is, the tradition of the temple is to offer fish to the Devi. And Ramakrishna is a Kali Bhakt. So prasad is given of fish. What is offered to the Devi? Whatever reasons, that became the norm, right? Because Bengal is primarily fish eating community. And fish is offered to the Devi as prasad. So Ramakrishna, though he was a spiritual master, folded his hands and took that prasad of fish and would take it. Even though he might not have liked the taste. That is mysticism. Nothing will happen to Ramakrishna because he's consumed the fish. But look at the emotion, the bhav with which he's eating that as a prasad. Not as, oh, come on, let's go to the fish market. Let me choose which is the juiciest, fattest fish out there. Let me go hunting. Let me go fishing. That's not what Ramakrishna is doing. He is only consuming it because it is a prasad of the Devi. And he is a Devi Bhakt. Look at the innocence in that. Huge difference between how other people consume fish, almost as if no sensitivity towards the creature is there. Anyway. So I also went to a Bhairav temple once, and the Bhairav temple, they gave me prasad as whiskey. Little bit whiskey the Panditji gave in my hand. I said, this is whiskey. And he's like, yeah, this is the prasad that goes for Bhairav. Come on. And Panditji was also like Bhairav. Panditji was also like that. Bhairav, right? Come on, take it and go. I was like, okay, quickly. I just had the whiskey. And of course, non-veg is also served. Because Bali, there is a sacrifice that happens for that deity. But these are different kind of energies. They are protective energies, right? So Tantra is a very diverse. But can I say that me eating mutton and the prasad that is offered to Bhairav, is it the same? It is not the same. Because Bhairav is standing there protecting the people of that area. The army people eating the non-veg, it is very justified because the army man is ready to die for the nation. He'll take a bullet to save 100,000 people. What are you doing? You're only going to the gym, creating this bulk. Neither are you protecting anybody. Neither is your life in service to the nation. Neither are you in service to some higher purpose. You're just doing it to maybe look good. So your reason and the reason that a Pandit would eat or offer prasad or anything is very different. They cannot be equated ever. So a lot of people give me these random justifications, and there's a huge difference, guys. What are you doing with your life? If your life is in service to a bigger purpose, I'll say eat the goat, eat the fish. I'll happily come and serve it to you. If you are protecting thousands and lakhs of people of this country, right? If your health is, you're about to die at any minute just because you're protecting people, eat it. Stand for something much bigger. And you eating non-veg will also get justified in your karmic. But anybody, and this is my 2 cents, guys, this is my personal opinion. I'm not associating with anybody else. In my journey of food, if somebody is looking for mental clarity, for peacefulness, for bliss, for deep focus, you have to be vegetarian. You have to be vegetarian.